problem, and we already seen one version of the program. This is going to be much simpler, way simpler than the other one. Okay, so we'll hardly take some 20 minutes or something. Yeah. Just a second. Okay. We'll go through the methods of this program one after the other, and then we'll also run it and we'll see how it is actually working. Okay, so the first method that we have in this code here is find entropy. So to find the entropy of the entire data set, so we would initially call this method find entropy, which takes only one parameter, the data frame for the entire data set. We would have read the CSV file into a data frame, and we would initially call it for this method. So we have a class here, a local variable that says df.keys, right? So in case, so if my data frame is this, right? So if this is my data frame, yeah, it's going to look like this. So I want the keys from this. So what are the keys from this? So what would keys give to us? What would we get from the dot keys method? Anybody? Okay, so keys would give us only the attribute names. The attribute names here that you can see are outlook, temperature, humidity, wind, and play. So keys would give you the attribute names of all the entries in your data frame. But then among all the keys, you're expecting only -1, right? So you want only -1. So what is, yeah, anything? So what would -1 give to us in this case? So this is a list consisting of the names of all the attributes, and -1 in this list would be what? So 0 is outlook, 1 is temperature, and what would be that? That is play. That's right, that is play. Okay, so sorry. Which means class is the target attribute, which is play in our case. Entropy is again a local variable initialized to be 0. So values equal to df of class. So df of class is this particular column, the column that says no, no, yes, yes. So only the last column in our data frame. Dot unique. Now the dot unique method, see in any list. Now this is a list that consists of no, no, yes, yes. So I have only two possibilities, no and yes. So if I had a list, for example, if I had a list like 1, 1, then 2, and then 2, and then 3, 3, 3, and then 4, and then 4, and probably say 5, 5. If I call a unique method on this, then that would return me 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it won't give me the repeated entries. So in this case, I'm calling a unique method on the list that consists only of the last column of my data frame. So it would give me only the two possibilities, only the two classes, which are yes and no. So values are the two possible classes, which are yes and no. For value and value, so for both yes and no, the whole idea, we know the formula for entropy, minus P plus log base to P plus and minus P minus log base to P minus. So to find the P plus and P minus, we are computing the fraction for first time for yes and next time for no. df of class, now please check this, df of class, right? So it says like this. So df of class, so class you know is play, so df of play dot value counts. So you please count the value of this particular value, yes, right? So please go for this particular column. We are only telling go this to this particular column and count all those values where there is value. In the first time in your for loop, the value is yes, and the second time in your for loop, the value is no. So you're taking a fraction of the number of yes by length of df of class. df of class is df of play. df of play is this list that contains no, yes, 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 only the last values of each and every entry. So length of that is of course 14, because there are 14 entries in our data set. So number of positive divided by 14, next time number of negative divided by 14. Along with computing that fraction, what we have is computation of the entropy. So entropy is initially 0, so entropy equal to entropy plus. So according to our formula, we need minus P plus and minus P minus. NP NP because I'm using the log method from the NumPy array multiplied by the fraction. That's just the formula. Whatever the formula we know, we have put that here and we are returning the entropy. Any clarification with respect to this method, you can ask me, students, but I think it's kind of pretty simple. So we just know the target attribute and then we know the classes, and for both the classes, both positive and negative, we're computing the proportion of positive and proportion of negative, and we're adding on to the entropy by taking log base 2 to that proportion and adding it to the entropy. So this for loop is going to run 2 times because there are 2 possible classes in our data set, and return the entropy. Do we have any clarification here? Okay, so I think you're clear with that. So we have the second method here, that is find entropy attribute. So the whole idea is we will have to be finding the entropy of a single attribute as well. So sometimes I will need entropy of this data set with S sunny. I need entropy of this data set with S overcast and S rain, right? So if I just take outlook, right? So in that case, I can see that there are 3 possibilities, that is sunny, I have rain, and I have overcast. So I will need all these possibilities as well, because this comes into picture, especially when I'm computing the information gain of the attributes. So class equal to df of df dot key. So df is our entire data frame. For example, let's assume df is the entire data frame and attribute is, say, outlook. Let's take a scenario where the attribute is outlook and df is our entire data frame. So df.keys, of course, is going to give you a list of all these attributes, and we're taking -1 in that and -1 in that is play. So definitely class is the target attribute. Target variables are the classes. So df of class, so df of class is this last column, that is df of play, and in that I want only the unique value. So of course I would be getting yes and no. I have a variable here called as entropy. We have initialized to 0. So for variable in variable, so for both positive and for negative, right, I have a local variable here called as entropy. For target variable in target variables, so target variables is your list that you've just initialized. So this is another for loop variable. So you got to be clear when you're writing your program. So for both yes and no. So what we are trying to tell here is length of, so we're computing the length of df of attribute. So I'm computing df of attribute is df of outlook. So in this first column of my data frame, I'm only checking, okay, please observe here, sorry. So variables equal to df of attribute. Df of attribute is df of outlook, because I've taken the scenario that attribute is outlook dot unique. So what would that give me, students? What would variables give me? I'm going to the column D. Yeah, please tell me. What would...
It'll have sunny, overcast and rain, ma'am. Only 3.
Perfect. It'll have only 3, sunny, overcast and rain. So variables are the 3 possible values of my attribute outlook. So I'm running this for loop for all the 3 variables, right? So that is sunny, outlook and overcast. And I also want when sunny is positive, when sunny is negative. I also want when rainy is positive and when rainy is negative. So I'm running an inner for loop here that tells me yes and no. So first time I'm going to run for sunny with positive, and next time in the inner for loop I'm going to run sunny with negative, right? So num equal to length of df of attribute, that is df of outlook, where df of attribute equal to variable, right? So in our first for loop the variable is sunny. In the next outer for loop the variable is going to be rainy. In the third for loop the variable is going to be what, overcast, huh? Yeah, overcast. Okay, so first time I only want those number of entries where I'm talking of the column outlook, but the outlook column has sunny, right? And also df of class, right? So df of class is df of play equal to target variable, right? So what is this target variable in the initial for loop, inner for loop? It is yes. So I'm only computing number of s sunny where it is positive, right? And total number of entries. So length is df of attribute, that is df of outlook, where there is sunny, right? So I'm only computing total number of s sunny entries and the positive number of s sunny entries. So I want the fraction of it Of course, I want the fraction of it, so it is num by 10. You can also see plus epsilon here. So plus epsilon, if you don't give this and run this program, you can check that it's going to go less than 0 and it's going to throw you a math error telling you're trying to divide by a negative value of 0, and it's going to throw. So epsilon is one constant value. We're ensuring that it's not going below 0. Now the same thing, entropy, we know minus P plus minus P minus. So initially entropy you can see here is 0, and then you are computing the fraction of positive for S sun E, and then total number of S sun E entries. Next time when you run your loop, total number of negative S sun E entries, total number of negative S sun E entries by total number of S sun E entries. Right, and then you're going to compute it. Not only that, so this here inner for loop you can check, see here it gets closed here. You don't only have to do that, you also got to compute the the whole idea is to compute the entropy of S sun E. So to compute the entropy of S sun E, you need to know the entropy of both the sun E when it is positive and sun E when it is negative. So taking the total fraction here. So total fraction is total number of entries divided by length of DF. So length of DF is 14, length of DF is 14, and then you're computing the total entropy of that particular attribute. Now when you're computing, you're returning absolute of that. So absolute this method will ensure that we're not going to return a negative value, we're only going to return a positive value. Right? So I hope it's kind of clear, right? So yeah, please tell me.
On the previous slide, ma'am.
Yeah.
Here, what is EPS, ma'am?
That's what I told you. EPS is we're going to define in our program before calling this method. We would have initialized epsilon to some static constant value. This only ensures that our value, our fraction, is not going. Yeah, it's not going below 0, right? So just adding the constant value.
We would have initialized it, ma'am.
We have initialized epsilon. I'll show you further.
Sure.
It's not initialized here, it's initialized outside this method. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
So the next method is find winner. So find winner of the data frame. We would initially call this find winner method to find the winning attribute, right? That means the attribute with the highest information gain. So let's assume DF is our entire CSV file, and we know our CSV file is looking like this. So we have two lists here, entropy attribute and empty list, and information gain and empty list. For key in DF of keys of -1. So we are very aware of this. DF of keys is this list that has all the attributes, and -1 is the target attribute. But then I'm not taking -1. I'm giving a square bracket. Please observe here. I'm just giving a square bracket, and then I say nothing here, but yeah, it's -1 here, right? So what would that indicate? Nothing here, but -1 there. So what would that indicate to you, students? So for
everything
DF,
except the final one, except play.
Exactly. So that means I don't have a starting index. So that means the default starting index is 0. That means I'm starting from Outlook, but end at -1. So -1 is not inclusive. So only these many. That's Outlook, temperature, humidity, and wind. So I'm going to run this for loop for all these attributes. For all the attributes, what I'm doing is I'm going to go on appending the information gain of every attribute. So that's why this append method. I will find the entropy of the data frame. So we already saw the find entropy method. I'm calling that find entropy method for this entire data frame minus. Why am I doing this whole thing? That's my formula. To find the information gain of any attribute, I need to subtract the entropy of the entire data frame minus the entropy of all the possible values of that particular attribute, right? So that's why find entropy attribute of df comma key. So how do you know key? Key is outlook in the first iteration, key is temperature in the second iteration, humidity in the third iteration, wind in the fourth iteration. So your for loop is going to run 4 times for all the keys. Right? So why you're doing this, that's how you're supposed to actually calculate the information gain. So you're computing information gain of all the attributes and you're putting in this list. But when you are returning, please observe df of keys, all the keys except the target attribute, which is play. I don't want to return all the keys, but I only want to return such a key, such an attribute that has the maximum value of information gain. So that's why argmax of IG. So in this list, whichever has the highest value, please return that as the winner. Right, I think this is pretty straightforward. Any clarification so far? Okay. So get subtable, right? So if I want a portion of my entire CSV file, because I'm acting upon only, say I'm acting upon only S sunny values, or I'm acting only upon S overcast value or S rain values, those entries which have S sunny, those entries which have S rain, or those entries which have S hot or S mild. So I need the subtables of it, right? So I say data frame. Okay, and node is the attribute, node actually is the attribute, and value is the value of that attribute. So I take three parameters. Data frame is my entire CSV file, node is the attribute on which I'm acting upon, and value is the value of that attribute which I'm looking for. Okay, so df of, so in the data frame I want where there is this particular column, so df of node, so df of, say if I'm talking of Outlook, df of Outlook, so that particular column where there are that value. If I'm saying value is sunny, I want only those rows where there are sunny. So I have four such rows: sunny, 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 and sunny. So I'm only talking of those four rows here. Dot reset index of drop equal to true. Okay, so drop equal to true. True is again a constant value. So this simply means I'm only interested in those values, those four columns, and drop index equal reset index with drop equal to true will drop or remove or omit all the remaining other entries in my data set. So you would be returning only those four rows that has these values to get that portion of the table. Why would I do that? Maybe when I'm computing the information gain of that portion, I need only that subtable and I'm building the tree. So that's why I have this method. Now the main and the last function of our program is build tree. Okay, build tree. So once again, yeah, data frame, the entire CSV file. Tree, so it's a default parameter. It's going to be a dictionary of dictionaries. So initially it is initialized to none. It does not exist initially. Class again, so you cannot make it small class, otherwise it's going to become a keyword, so it will cause you problems. So you got to keep C as caps. Df.keys, so you know df.keys of -1. That's what we've been talking. So class is your target attribute, right? Now node equal to find winner. So the first thing is find the node, find the winning node, or find the winning attribute which we are going to place in the root node. So what will find winner return us? We've already seen find winner. Find winner will return us that attribute which has the highest information gain. Sorry, yeah, that has the highest information gain. Okay, once again, yeah. So node, for example, let's say Outlook is the winning node which has the highest information gain. Now attribute value. So I want the values of that node. So np.unique, I'm calling the NumPy arrays unique method on df of node. So what is df of node? I'm assuming the winning node is Outlook. So df of node is this particular row, this particular column that has sunny, sunny, overcast, rain, and that. In that, I'm asking for unique values. So I can see sunny, overcast, rain. So I'm going to get the unique values as sunny, rain, and overcast. Because I got to run the iteration for all of these. If tree is none, yes, tree is initially none. So we are creating an empty dictionary. So tree is an empty dictionary. So tree of node, so tree of Outlook, we are populating this dictionary. So tree of Outlook is initially an empty list. So which simply means I had initially created a dictionary that was empty, right? And then I told within this dictionary I have Outlook, right? And Outlook value itself is an empty dictionary, right? So that's what I told. So I'm going to do dictionary of dictionaries. Outlook value itself is an empty dictionary. I'm going to fill that empty dictionary as well. So for value in attribute value, so we know that attribute values are sunny, overcast, and rain, taking the scenario of Outlook as the winning node. Now I want the subtables, right? So I want the subtables. So get subtable of df. So we already saw this get subtable method. So entire data frame. Node is the attribute. Yeah, that is the winning node, which is Outlook in our scenario. Value. So value is sunny, Outlook, and sunny, rain and overcast. So get that portion of the table, get those rows of your table which has sunny, get those rows of your table which has overcast, and get those rows of your table which has rainy. Okay. And among those rows, what I'm checking here, please observe, I'm finding the unique values in that subtable of play. So wherever I want that column, so let's say assume sunny, so you have 4 rows over here. So please check this column. So you have no, 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 and yes, 4 such possibility. Right? Return counts is equals to true, right? So I want how many values are there, so how many entries are there of yes and no, and how many values are there, right? So I can see 2 values and the counts of values are also there. So but here, if the length of counts is not 1, the length of counts is 2 here, because there is both yes and no. There are 3 yes, there are 3 no's and 1 yes. So length of counts is not 1. If the length of count is 1, that simply means I only have yes and it is 1 here. In this case, the CL value is both yes and no, and the counts is 2. If it is a pure subset, if it is a homogeneous collection, then you don't need to divide the tree further. You can directly initialize it over here, right? So CL value is going to be a list that contains yes and no in this case, because there is both no and yes, and counts is going to be 2 because there are 2 such class values. If it was a homogeneous mixture, then tree of outlook of sunny is going to be all yes or all no, right? So we would initialize our dictionary in that case, but it's not in this case. So we recursively call this. So we say tree of node of value. So tree of outlook of sunny is equal to. So I now populate this dictionary. So I say tree of outlook and sunny is equals to. Again, call your build tree with only the remaining entries. Right? So only the remaining entries minus whatever those particular rows, you call the build tree function. So we had already initialized drop index to true. So we're only going to consider the remaining entries. Why? Because those entries were already considered. Only the remaining entries had to be considered. So this happens recursively. For the remaining set of rows, again, we will find the winning node, right? And then we will check what are the attribute values of that winning node. If tree is none, no tree is not, tree is again, yeah, it is a local recursive function. Then again, we would initialize the winning node with an empty dictionary and keep on populating that. So with the libraries that are required are pandas and numpy. So this is where the initialization of epsilon goes. Okay, so that's some constant value that we have initialized, and we have also imported log2. We're using the logarithmic function. Don't do this. I've changed it. I will just show you that. 1 second. Oh my God. Yeah, I've just changed that. So what I've done here is I have this tennis.csv file. Yeah, this is my data set. So I have just read it. All the thing that I've done is I've just read the CSV file into the data frame. I've printed the data frame and I've simply called the tree method. In our program here, he's given the data set here only and then called the build tree method. No need to do that. We should just put it in the CSV file and we should just read that CSV file into the data frame. Let's print that data set and then call the build tree, which is going to recursively take care of doing the whole thing. So and then we're even calling this, I think it's pretty print, to print the dictionary of dictionary in a properly formatted manner. So when I run this, I've printed the entire data set and then I've also printed the dictionary of dictionary. So there's no too much of print statements here. So I only have outlook. When outlook is overcast, then directly we have a classification. Yes, when outlook is rain, we've again built a dictionary with wind, and then again and we check with wind, and then if wind is strong, then we have a direct value. If wind is weak, then again we have a direct value. So this is our tree structure. Now going ahead, we also have the second portion of our program that says not only build this tree, but also test it on a test instance. So we directly have given the test instance here. So this is a lot better. There is no division of our data set into, yeah, if you want to include that portion, that was nice in that other program wherein we divided 80% of the data set as training and next 20 as test. If you want to do that, you can add that portion, but otherwise this is pretty simple. We have directly taken a test instance and we have initialized this value. You got to be careful. You got to be careful in a way that, you know, if you give Outlook here as O small and then you try to test on a different value there, it's not going to really work. So you got to be sure that you're using the same attribute names and the same existing name. So if in your training data set, if you have all Sunny as S small, then you're going to have a problem. It's always going to say that does not exist. Okay, so these values, whatever you enter, you have to be careful with that. So we have a function here that is going to test our tree. Right, so the test instance, the tree that we just constructed, and default the third parameter, which is none. So attribute equal to next of iteration of tree. So if I print, I'm just trying to print that. So it's just going to keep on printing the next value. So it's going to pick up overcast, sunny, and sunny. So the next set of keys that exist in our dictionary. If test attribute, right, if it is already present in the keys, right, then we can directly print the result. So the result is whatever is there in that attribute of that test attribute. So trees attribute of test attribute. So whatever you find it over here, you can directly print that as the result. Otherwise, if it's an instance, right, if it is an instance, so for example, in this case, it should be an instance because when we take the Outlook as Sunny, we don't have a direct answer there. Then we are calling this function again. We're calling this function again with the same test instance and the result that we have found. So result we have found it. So we see that, yeah, Outlook is present. So Outlook is initially present. So test of attribute is Outlook. So it is present in this keys. So result is tree of attribute of test of attribute. So from here again, we start calling this function again, right? So then we pick up from here and then we check the value, what is present here. And then we go on finding until we actually find a yes or no. Right, if already, then if the attribute itself is not present, so if I give some dummy attribute here and if I try to test on that, then it's going to return the default, which is none. So whatever answer, so I've called this function, whatever function returns, I've saved it in answer and I'm printing the answer. In my case, it's printing no. For this instance, it's printing no. In fact, you can try to test it on any random instance or for an instance that is already present in our test set. And in our original program, we had the accuracy computation. We were checking how much it is accurate and all that. It's not there here, but anyway, accuracy computation is not a part of our question, so it's not required for us to do. So I think this is kind of way simpler